Acts 16. I read from the Institute for Scripture Research, the ISR, because it takes a direct translation from Hebrew to English, Greek to English, Aramaic to English. And Yah is the Elohim of the heavens and the earth, the first and the last and the only, and he's an extremely jealous El. He's so jealous that he doesn't even want the names of idols or mighty ones to come to our lips. And, excuse me, and Yah is short for YahWeh, Yahweh, Yod-He, Vav-He. It's like saying Dan, Daniel, Daniel with an E. What is the difference and does matters when people say that Phil, Bob, Sam, and Aaron are the same name when no they're not, and no one in their right mind would ever believe that, and only a fool would believe that a hammer could force its creator to do anything. And there was no letter J in the Hebrew, Greek, or Aramaic text because the letter J is about 600 years old, while the son of Elohim, Yehoshua, died on a stake for the sins of all of humanity over 2,000 years ago. In a direct translation from Hebrew to English, Yehoshua is Joshua, and I strongly believe that the son of Elohim's name, Yehoshua, means Yahweh is salvation. Excuse me. So a week from now, I looked at the pagan calendar, and a week from now is supposed to be fall, and I think fall started like a day or two ago. Maybe a little bit before that, because I didn't see the colors of the leaves change until they started falling. Fall is when the leaves fall. Oh yes. So while I was reading, excuse me. While I was reading in Acts, it came across the part where it said that Paul had written the book of Galatians, and I was like, awesome. I'm gonna go read the book of Galatians because I want to read the book. As in, I didn't realize there was 13 of them supposedly that Paul had written. Out of, I think there's 27 books in this one of the second writings, and 13 of those are from Paul. Shaul, who is called Paul. Excuse me. And so I read Galatians, and I highly suggest that you read all 6 chapters in the entire book before you come to a conclusion, because it's very confusing. You could read up to even the 5th chapter, like read all of the 5th chapter and don't even read the 6th, and you would probably come up excuse me, you'd probably come up with a completely different conclusion to what I did. You have to read the entire book, all 6 chapters, before you make a conclusion, because I was so confused. And I got to the 4th and I'm like, I don't want to read this in a video. I feel like this contradicts what I'm saying, like what I believe, like the Bible and all that. And I'm like, I have to read the whole thing. And I read the whole thing, and I was wrong. If you read the whole thing, and please read with an open mind. Don't be like those people who are like, what'd you say? Keep your eye on the ball, and then take the ball and shove it into their eyeball so they can keep their eye on the ball. Like, it's not that literal. Also, my sister-in-law was reading the Torah, or a piece of the Torah yesterday, and they had a vision as being told to someone, and it sounded like you were supposed to eat. And it always seems like they use a parable as something to eat when referring to humans or something else in real life. Like when the parable is being explained, it's no longer about food, it's now about people. It has never been about food, it's always been about people, it seems. Excuse me. And yeah, so Paul said, like, to just up the entire thing, which eventually I'll get there and I'll read it so you can see how confusing it actually is. Paul said that you only have to follow the Torah if you are a seed of Abraham. Not seeds, but seed of Abraham. Now, you're only a seed of Abraham if you follow Yah and Yah's word, which is the the Son, and he said that you don't have to follow the Torah, and you only have to follow the Son. And he called it quite a few people, what do they call that? He basically said they were wrong. They were at fault. They were wrong. They were hypocrites, so on and so forth. And I mean, I guess I'll have to reread it 1,000 times just to get it anyways. That's fine by me. In other words, if you're a believer, then you are of the seed of Abraham, and therefore you follow the Torah. So he wasn't saying you do not follow the Torah. Again, the Pharisees and the Sadducees made up a bunch of different rules and put them in the Torah that you don't have to follow, and that's what he's talking about. Not the Torah itself, but the man-made parts of the Torah, which is, I mean, a large section of it. They don't even talk about the parts that man has made until you hear about them, like washing your hands first or you defile yourself. Like, what? Get out of here with that crap. Yeah, it was pretty savage. Again, read all 6 chapters of the book before you come to the conclusion, because if you don't, then you'll come up with a wrong conclusion that a lot of other people have mistakenly decided to do. That has led to them not following the Torah and believing that the Torah was completely done away with because Paul said so. I would just like to point out that Paul is just a human. Are you going to follow what Paul says, or are you going to follow what YahWeh says? And I'm pretty sure Paul is saying the same thing that YahWeh is saying. It's just in a very confusing manner, so people think that, Paul's saying something else than to what he's actually saying. But anyways, 16. Excuse me. Excuse me. And he came to Derbe, Derbe, and Lystra, Lustra, and see, a certain taught one was there named Timotheus, Timotios, the son of a certain Yehudi woman who believed, but his father was Greek, who was well spoken of by the brothers who were at Lystra and Iconium, Ikonion. Shaul wished to have this one to go with him, and he took him and circumcised him because of the Yehudim who were in those places, for they all knew that his father was Greek, and as they went through the cities they delivered to them the regulations to keep, which were decided by the emissaries and elders at Jerusalem. Then, excuse me. Then indeed the assemblies were strengthened in the belief and increased in number every day. Also, another thing I just want to point out that I just remembered. Paul said you don't have to be circumcised. I think you can choose to be circumcised or uncircumcised. Like, I'm not even going to touch down on the subject. I'm just going to leave it at that right there. But the festivals is what YahWeh told you to never give up. So if the festivals is the only part of the Torah, plus, love your neighbor as yourself and love YahWeh with all your mind, body, spirit, like strength, like everything about you should be for him, then you would just do all that stuff. And I think all these other pieces around it is like what he's talking about. Like, a lot of it is man-made. But, yeah. Anyways, back to 16. Excuse me. And having passed through Phrygia, Phryggia, and the Galatian country, Galatian, they were forbidden by the set apart spirit to speak the word in Asia, Asia. I wonder why. When they came to Musia, Musia, they tried to go into Bithynia, Bithunia, but the Spirit did not allow them. And having passed by Musia, they came down to Troas, Troas, and in the night a vision appeared to Shaul, a man of Macedonia. Makedonia, was standing begging him and saying, "Come over to Macedonia and help us." And when he saw the vision, immediately he sought to go to Macedonia, concluding that the Master had called us to bring the good news to them. Excuse me. Therefore, sailing from Troas, we ran a straight course to Samothrake, Samothrake, and the next day came to Neapolis, Neapolis, and from there to Philippi, Phi, excuse me, Philippi, which is the principal city of that part of Macedonia, a colony, probably British. Nah. And they were staying in that city for some days, and on the Sabbath day we went out when we excuse me. And on the Sabbath day we went out and we went outside the city by a river where there used to be prayer, and having sat down we were speaking to the women who met there, and a certain woman named Ludia, Ludia, mostly probably a Gentile by birth, converted to Yehoshua, 16a. A seller of purple from the city of Thyatira, 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 worshipped Elohim, was hearing, whose heart the Master did open to pay attention to what Shaul said. And when she was immersed and her household, she begged us, saying, "If you have judged me to be believing in the Master, come to my house and stay." And she urged us, and it came to be as we went to prayer, that a certain slave girl possessed with the spirit of Puthon, Puthon, did meet us, who brought her masters much profit by foretelling. Having followed Shaul and us, she cried out, saying, "These men are the servants of the Most High Elohim, who proclaim to us the way of deliverance." And she was doing this for many days. But Shaul, greatly annoyed, turned and said to the spirit, "I command you in the name of Yehoshua Messiah to come out of her." And it came out that same hour. But when her masters saw that their anticipation of money making was gone, they seized Shaul and Silas and dragged them into the marketplace to the rulers. And having brought them to the captains, they said, "These men, being Yehudim, greatly disturb our city, and they proclaim practices which are not right for us to receive nor to do, being Romans," Greeks. And the crowd rose up together against them, and the captain tore off their garments and commanded them to be beaten with rods. And having laid many blows upon them, they threw them into prison, commanding the jailer to keep them safely, who, having received such a command, put them into the inner prison and fastened their feet in the stocks. And at midnight Shaul and Silas were praying and singing songs to Elohim, and the prisoners were listening to them, and suddenly a great earthquake took place, so that the foundations of the prison were shaken, and immediately all the doors were opened, and all the chains came loose. And the jailer, awake from sleep, and seeing the prison doors open, thinking the prisoners had fled, drew his sword and was about to kill himself. Why? What? Why would you not go and try to, find out if they actually left or if they're still in the building? Why would you just straight out kill yourself? What a fool. I mean, following idols will do that to you. But Shaul called with a loud voice, saying, "Do no harm to yourself, for we are all here." And asking for a light, he ran in and fell down trembling before Shaul and Silas. And having led them outside, he said, "Masters, what do I have to do to be saved?" And they said, "Believe on the Master Yehoshua Messiah, and you shall be saved, you and your household." That's not how that works. You and your household. No, you yourself save you yourself. The other ones have to believe themselves too. And they spoke the word of YahWeh to him and to all who were in his house. And taking them in that hour of the night, he washed their wounds, and immediately he was immersed, he and all that he was, and all that were his. And having brought them into his house, he set food before them, and he rejoiced with all his household, having believed in Elohim. Yeah, see, there you go. The whole household had to do it in order to all be saved. And when day came, the authorities sent the officers, saying, "Let these men go." And the jailer reported these words to Shaul, saying, "The captains have sent to let you go. Now then, come out and go in peace." But Shaul said to them, "They have beaten us publicly, uncondemned, being Romans. They have thrown us into prison, and now do they throw us out secretly? No, indeed, let them come themselves and bring us out." And the officers reported these words to the authorities, and they were afraid when they heard that they were Romans. And having come, they pleaded with them and brought them out and asked them to leave the city. So coming out of the prison, they went to Ludia, Ludia, and seeing the brothers, they encouraged them and went forth. Amen.